Thank you for joining us. We're Finding God in Video Games, and we just wanted to share our perspectives on the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride, Cosmic Rewind, which we were fortunate enough to get an early preview of. Thought you might be interested in, especially if you were thinking of riding it as well. You got to go first. I will say that I am not the roller coaster aficionado.
No.
Slinky Dog Dash is like right at my comfort zone.
And even then, you get scared.
I get a little nervous when they go the big ups and downs. You are the opposite.
I love thrill rides. I'm the person that I went on the bungee jump, the tallest bungee jump in North America.
I watched you do it,
and I thought that was really fun.
I watch you do things, and I get nervous. I get palpitations just watching.
Yeah, your palms get sweaty.
When you did the slingshot thing, I was legit, and I was not good. So we have very different perspectives on what makes a good ride. So from that, first impressions for you.
So for me, and I'm going to say spoilers ahead for some people if you don't want the ride to be spoiled. No, because there are some fun little surprises in the ride, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't know anything going into it. I won't say all of them, but just in case you want to be surprised about it, I probably wouldn't watch this or listen. So for me, right when you get into the queue for the ride, it's immediate, takes you to a whole nother universe, a whole nother world, and I immediately felt like I was somewhere else, like I wasn't here, and I thought that was really, 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 really cool. I definitely just kind of stood there and took it all in. I didn't even really feel like I was waiting for a ride because there's just so much to look at and listen to and see right when you get into the queue, so I thought that was really cool. I almost felt like the line went too fast. I kind of wish that it would have gone a little bit slower, and I think it went fast because, it's just for the preview people. I don't know if it'll really go that fast when it opens.
I will say, in my perspective, because I got a different experience than you. So we did child swap. That's why we had two separate pictures of our ride experience. But you went through the traditional queue because we did the child swap piece. I went through an entirely different and had a different experience as a result. The lion queue part for me, very, very small. There wasn't a whole lot of that ambiance piece. I got to see part of the room that you were in at the beginning, and then it just kind of whisks you to a hallway. So I will forewarn, if you're doing a lightning lane or such, or the child swap piece, you are not going to get all of that great world building experience. Basically, I got to see what looked cool from a distance, and then immediately whisked into the beginning of what were several rooms that you go through before you get into the ride itself.
Yeah, and that's the cool stuff. I mean, now that I've seen it, I probably want to do what you did.
So would you compare it to the Avatar ride, where if you go on Flight of Passage, if you go through the lightning lane, you basically just go through hallways. Yeah. The other one, you get to see all the labs and all that kind of stuff.
It's kind of that same kind of concept where you're going to miss a lot of that fun stuff. Like, you get to see some of the ships in the queue, like little model ships, and I thought that was really cool. And you get to see their suits and that kind of stuff.
And the characters, they interacted and said things, right?
Yes.
So I did not get any of that.
Well, it wasn't characters that you would know, I don't think. I think that it was just like crew people, I guess you could say, that were kind of interacting, and that was really cool. And I'm not the only one that said the line went too fast, because I heard people behind me that were like, man, I feel like that went a little bit fast. I could have stayed in this line for like an hour.
Well, if it's anything like Rise of the Resistance, it'll probably shut down multiple times to get people time
and
to
we have heard,
experience
we have heard that some people, it does break down a lot.
Another thing, the indoor queue is not very long. I think from the time that you went into the indoor area to actually getting on the ride, how long was that?
Well, we got in line at 10:30, but that was the line to get into the line.
Once you were inside?
I would say it was probably 20, 30 minutes, maybe.
I would say, I don't even know it was that, because it was only 40 minutes from your time in line for the ride fully until you were walking off of it.
Yeah.
So there is a slightly different experience to the ride queue part. Now, as far as the ride itself, thrill factor, 1 to 10, where would you put that?
So this isn't any type of thrill ride I've ever been on. So if you've been to Universal and you've gone on Gringotts, okay, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that, except for it's way smooth. Like, it's super smooth. Because you know how Gringotts, it looks like it's kind of a coaster, but you're in your own little part of the coaster, and then it kind of moves around your seat. So this is similar to that, except for it's not bumpy at all. You feel like you're floating in space quite literally. You feel like you're in this compartment and you're spinning around. But it's not just the thing that, the cart that you're in that's spinning. It's the actual coaster that's spinning. So you have two different things that are spinning at the same time. But for me, I don't really get motion sickness. I mean, I can. And I didn't feel sick at all because it was so smooth.
I would agree. And for me, as I mentioned, I'm being very, very honest here. I don't do rides with big drops. I don't do Hollywood Tower of Terror. I don't enjoy those kind of experiences. I don't even go on Space Mountain because personally, I don't feel as secure as I want to in the mechanism when it's riding on it. But I really enjoyed this from multiple perspectives. It's a great Guardians ride, first of all. It does a good little story. It's got a lot of humor into it. They did a great job with the theming. It is very projection heavy, and that's why, from my personal perspective, Rise of the Resistance is still a superior story coaster because you had all the practical effects. You had giant models, and you felt like you were actually in that whole Rise of the Resistance piece. There's nothing like seeing those stormtroopers for the first time.
Right.
The giant bridge there on the ship. That's an unforgettable experience. This doesn't have the practical. It's a lot more projection based. But from a ride perspective, I would ride this over and over and over again. It's very smooth.
Rise isn't a coaster, right? Rise is what I would say, it's a ride. It's an experience, where this is an actual coaster. This isn't an experience like Rise is. This is an actual roller kind of coaster that you're on.
And it's going to feel like Space Mountain in terms of kind of being in the dark. But what I liked about it versus like a Space Mountain is I felt very secure in the mechanism. As far as the smoothness of it, yes, the thing will move, but it's not like you're spinning like you're in one of the teacups or something like that. Yeah. So it's not really going to put you in a position of motion sickness, at least not for me. And I don't do these kind of rides. No. But for me, I never felt, there was no huge drops. There was just speed. And you're not doing like corkscrews or anything like that. It's just very fast. And what is there, for me, I felt was the most state-of-the-art coaster that I've been on in terms of it really understood point of view and making sure that you kind of felt where you were going so you wouldn't get motion sick while you were on it. It wasn't like throwing you all around. So if you're a little averse to it and think, I wonder if it's too intense. It wasn't really for me, and I don't do intense.
So to give you an idea of the intensity, right? So I had a backpack with me, and I forgot to give it to you before I went on. So I was kind of nervous because I'm like, oh man, I don't know what to do. And so I get there, and I'm like, okay, there's no cubbies to put your bag. So I asked a cast member, I'm like, what do I do with my backpack? And he's like, oh, just lay it at your feet. It'll be fine. And I'm really worried. I'm like, my feet, I don't know. So I'm wrapping the backpack around my foot and everything just to make sure it doesn't fall off. And it did not move at all. Like, I didn't even need to wrap around my foot 3 times like I did.
It didn't even mess up my hair. Well, it's because I have so little of it.
It's so lame. But, so that kind of gives you an idea of the intensity of the ride, because if my backpack didn't even move at my feet, and I was so concerned it would fly out or something.
Now, you get the sensation of speed, but at no point did I feel like I was nervous while I was riding. It didn't jostle me around, and if anything, I felt like it was too short. And it wasn't, but I was ready for it to keep going. It was like 5 minutes from the time that you're like, hey, I'm getting on the coaster, to hey, I'm getting off. It was about a 5-minute experience, but of course you're waiting for it to launch, and then you're waiting to get off. But so really a lot of fun. It'll be a must do for me all the time. I told my friend, it is worth a 3-hour wait. If you have to wait 3 hours, you just need to do it. Trust me on this one. It's worth 3 hours. And I won't say that about many.
I won't say that about many either. I would say about Flight of Passage. If you've never ridden it, I would wait 3 hours for that ride. Same with Rise. Those are about the only 3 rides I would ever wait longer than 45 minutes for. I would also pay to ride this ride.
Certainly.
If you had to pay $15 a person or even $20 a person,
but understand you will miss out on that queuing experience, which I kind of wish I didn't. Because if you go through the lightning lane, you're going to miss a significant part of the world building and some of the cool stuff in there.
You will, but I would still do it, though.
But definitely worth doing. If you're a Guardians fan, if you like thrill rides, obviously you'll like it. If you're like me and you like your thrill rides to be a little tamer, you're still going to love that, because I personally, at the end of it, I'm like, I could do this. I could actually do it again.
And now you could actually enjoy it because
I could, because this time I won't be holding on like this to the bar, because now I'll be able to enjoy it knowing there's no huge drops or things that are going to terrify me.
I will say I totally felt like, and I said this about Avatar Flight of Passage, where I felt like this was the Disney magic. When I was on that ride, the entire time I was like this. I was so lame. My face was like, wow. oh, like, and the music is playing.
And you get a different soundtrack.
Part.
There's like 6 different songs.
Yeah.
You had a totally different song than I did, but they mesh really well. Yours was Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Yeah, that was the perfect song. Perfect song.
And mine was One Way or Another.
Yeah.
So there's, and then Don't Stop Believin' was one that I heard from others. So good soundtracks. It's what you want from a Guardians ride. It's what you want from a story coaster. State of the art, very smooth. I would recommend it to anybody. Thanks 100%. For joining us. We'll see you next time. We're Finding God in Video Games.